Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we're going to talk about decoding your 2022 realities. And a lot of people will always start the new year. I used to be one of them. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen this year. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Or if you're really in your human realities, you can sometimes have a more negative or positive spin on that statement, like what's going to happen this year. It kind of goes back to something I read. The way they said it, I thought was interesting. It said, like, is the tornado going to hit the house this year? And that's kind of a human consciousness thinking. Every year, is this going to be the year something bad happens? Is this going to be the year that the tornado hits our house, or is it going to hit the neighbor's house? Whatever that tornado would be for someone. So when we go through our human realities, we kind of have a different idea of what's going to make it successful next year. What's the new year going to be? But a lot of times when we're in our human consciousness, we have a very fear-based drive to that. We have a fear of what could happen. We don't really look at a lot of the exciting stuff. Sometimes we do, but that's usually kind of arced over sometimes by the fear of what's going to happen in the new year. Now, what's going to happen next? I've heard people say that before. Oh, just another day, or blah, blah, blah. So when we get to our higher realities, we start to notice there is normally clues as to what's coming. And I talked about this a little bit when I did a little year in wrap-up reality about looking at what's coming forward. Sometimes we start to know before the actual linear clock, because a linear clock really doesn't matter, but just for the purposes of these videos, I'll play a little more into this time of year because it's easier to kind of comprehend no matter what place you're at. A lot of the 2022 templates, they came in back in the fall of last year. So a lot of us last year were kind of getting an idea of, okay, what's going to happen? Like, what stage am I going to be in this year? What space am I going to be in this year? What's going to happen this year? Like, where am I at with my process, my ascension process, my expanded consciousness? What am I going to have the powers to do? What am I going to have the powers to see? Is this the year my dreams are going to open up more? And if you were in that human consciousness, that tornado hitting your house might be your awakening moment where you're starting your ascension process. So everyone's going to be in a different place. That's why when you see a lot of predictions for the year, it depends on where you're at with your journey as to how that's going to play out for people. But you can start to have an idea, sometimes earlier, because all the templates came in last year. You might have had an inkling, depending on how connected you are. Now, that's not a judgment on you're not connected enough. So don't worry if you haven't had an inkling. But now we're starting to get into the energies more. We're starting to see some physical things happen. I've seen a lot of people who are experiencing losses. People are leaving people have been dying. So I've seen a lot of that. That's happened to some people closer to me. They have decided to ascend somewhere else. So they have passed away. And we start looking at that and we start to see, even if you're in a reality where someone has just died, you can look at that and go, okay, now how does that set up my rest of the year? That brings me to a lot of grieving right now. What is that going to set up for the rest of the year? And a lot of times, really all the time, the people who do decide to go when they go, and it's all predestined and pre-planned, it's because you have other things to do. And that person being there, whether they're leaving physically or they're leaving metaphorically, would have hampered the next part of your process. You have something else to do. You didn't have the energy to put into that relationship anymore. And if it wasn't someone you were going to not talk to anymore, they had to leave because they were complete. They had finished up their human journey. They were going to ascend somewhere else. And that was that. Now, our human does need to grieve. So if you are going through that reality right now, give your human time to grieve. Your soul doesn't need the grieving, but the human does need that time to grieve, and understand that it all is predestined and pre-planned. So if you're in that, just focus on that in a sense, and look at what's going to happen now that person's not there, because there is a reason. Once you get through the grief and the sadness, you're going to have a massive expansion because you're going to clear a lot of that out, because that's the person that had to go to activate that grief, activate that sadness to leave your body, because you're going to be in that state for a little while, depending on how long it's going to take you. And when you're in those moments, be ready for a big expansion when you kind of get to the other side of that. Some other people, you might be experiencing relationships starting or ending. I've kind of seen both right now. A lot ending. A lot of times you might have seen it coming years before, and you're just at another dip where you're trying to decide, what do I do? Do I go? Do I stick or do I twist? What do I do here? So just be mindful of what's coming in for you. What are you having the inklings of? Are there new people kind of coming in? It doesn't matter if you haven't talked to the new people yet. Energetically, you might be near people and you see people and you're like, oh yeah, we have business together. I kind of feel that. I know if that person's going to be important this year. That person's going to play a part in this year. I'm curious as to what it's going to be, but I kind of know something's there. Energetically, we kind of put ourselves in these situations with people. It's not random. Energetically, we're exchanging information. Can we have a reality, or do we have to do this? Are we going to come back in a few months and check in again? I call them little check-ins with people. You kind of feel that connection, but you might not ever talk to them because it doesn't feel right to talk to them. It doesn't feel appropriate at that moment. Energetically, all the work's being done. You don't need to worry about it. Are humans going to say, oh, hell, nothing happened. I didn't even talk to the person. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're just kind of laying out the groundwork. You might come to a lot of realizations after you see certain people, whether you talk to them or not, that, oh, I've got to go do this. Oh, I've got to go do this. Because you have certain things to clean up. You got to kind of clean up your side of the street. They're going to have the same thing happening on their side of the street. And you might come together in a few more months and you're going to look at where everybody is at again and say, okay, can we have a reality now? Let's look at it now. So just be mindful of everything going on. There's no red herrings in your outside world. You don't put any there. Everything there is trying to kind of tip you off. It's like a murder mystery in a sense. Everything's placed in a certain way. People are placed in a certain way. Companies are placed in a certain way. Different realities are going to play out certain ways, and sometimes you can kind of see which way this year's going. If you're around a lot of family, you've been around a lot of family this beginning of this year, and you're starting to think, oh, this might be a year we're gonna sort out some ancestral DNA. We're gonna get to some root family stuff that's been going on, because it's time for me to clear that now. You'll probably start to see some stuff coming in. Now, how you deal with that is going to determine how the rest of your year is going to go. If you know you're supposed to deal with something, my advice would be to deal with it, because sometimes I didn't deal with stuff and it came down on me pretty hard later, because you do have a 2022 template and you have a 2023 template, different things you're supposed to do. So if you kind of drag out stuff that should have been kind of closed out into 2021, beginning of 2022, and you drag it out to April, it's going to be probably a really harsh landing in April when you get there. And then you're going to be cramming in the rest of your 2022. So you might feel yourself getting bombarded with a lot of stuff. So look at what you kind of know needs to be done, what doesn't feel right anymore. Go with what doesn't feel right anymore. If it doesn't feel like you want to be living in this place, being with these people, going to this space, whatever it is, go with that. Don't, because you don't have any physical evidence, because in the higher realms, we don't get physical evidence. You have to walk like the Indiana Jones leap of faith. The brick road, it's kind of like the yellow brick road too. It's going to light up every step you take. You just have to take the first step, no matter how weird it might seem. You might feel like, I'm going to go out and just pick up garbage today. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on my walk and pick up garbage. That's what I'm going to do today. Might seem like a little thing, but that's what you feel like you're supposed to do. And you might feel like you're supposed to do something else after that. We don't really get a lot of information in the beginning. We kind of get kind of told different things we have to do, and the longer we don't do them, the longer we're kind of drawing out stuff. We're drawing out those old realities because we just don't want to let them go. So look at kind of what you're holding on to. What is hard to hold on to? If money's not coming in to pay for a certain thing, you have to start looking at, am I supposed to be in this certain thing? If I'm not getting the support from my universe to keep going with this, am I supposed to keep going with this? If I'm not happy with this anymore, why am I still playing in it? What is coming in that is making me happy? Is this my direction this year? You'll kind of find a theme and a rhythm to every year. You'll kind of know ahead of time. There's really no big surprise. The human in us was the one that said, oh, I wonder what's going to happen this year. Our higher selves are like, okay, this is what's going to happen this year. So get ready. You have all this stuff you're going to have to do. You got to clear out all this stuff first, then we're going to go on to something else. So how do you feel about that? So listen. A lot of people sometimes will wear earplugs for a while because they drown out the outside world. So if you're having trouble listening internally, start to wear earplugs for a while. Then you're going to drown out all the noise from everything else. And you're just going to hear your inner self and the different frequencies and tones. That's when you get that kind of the tones in your ears. So, okay, happy 2022. and keep practicing the art of intuition.